Hey, what's up? Liron here. Thank you for joining me in today's video. Today I'd like to give you a bit of perspective and hopefully encouragement for one specific problem that I see some people run into and I myself run into, and I'm sure many people deal with artistically, which is the whole idea of trying something that you feel like may be beyond your league. So maybe it is painting a subject you're not used to or you've never tried before, and it could be different from what you're used to. It could be objectively harder than something you're used to. It could require a bunch of skills. Maybe it's a different medium, something you're not used to. And I will demonstrate this using some very unusual works of mine, this illustration and a bunch of others that I don't think you've ever really seen. I haven't shown properly. So whenever you want to tackle something new that you've never done before, there's this very understandable fear of feeling like you may not know how to do it. And there's this fear of not being able to produce a worthy result. Now, there is some truth to, of course, if it's a medium you never tried before, if it's something you never did before, it is going to be challenging and it is going to be very different, right? But there is a lot you can do that is very much in your control and is not necessarily down to skill. It's not necessarily down to your experience. Could be, but it's not even a technique or a skill you need to practice over a long run to improve. It's a lot of choices and use of reference and work process that enables you to do things that are beyond your usual scope. And that's kind of what I want to show you today. So we're going to take it to the table. I'm going to show you a couple of interesting sketches, also some manga sketches, because it really does, I think, drive home the point. So I want to start with this book. It's called basically Natalies Choices. It's written in Hebrew by David Almaznino. This is a book that I took as commission work to do the illustrations for. And in it, there are a lot of very non-typical things for me. And let me move the camera a bit. Very non-typical, I guess, sketches for me and things you don't normally see from me. And it did challenge me a lot because it required me to use a lot of different references and combine things together. So even if you don't know or you're unfamiliar with a technique or a style or a subject, again, there's a lot you can do. So in this example, like for the cover, I did this train, and I remember I used like 5 reference photos for this one, and I played around with them a lot to get the impression I wanted. And of course, I improved since. There are a lot of things I would do, hopefully better if I would have done this one again. But it does show and it does work with the story of the book itself, an immigrant coming to Israel from Russia. So let me open it up and we'll just go over the illustrations. Now I'm going to have to do it this way because it's easier for me to flip like that. So we have one here, and this is some tents with immigrants, people who came to work the land and were like really the first ones to arrive. And I remember when I worked on this one, I combined quite a lot of things too. And I wasn't sure what these kinds of settings and places looked like. So what you have to do is actually, go online or open up a book and look for, and if you can read Hebrew, you can read a bit, and actually do some research, because a lot of people assume they should know how to draw something or they should know how to portray something or paint something, and that's just not reality. And in reality, you have to do a lot of research. It's like writers, they can't just, sometimes you can make things up, but a lot of times you're writing from your own experience, and what you end up writing about is things right? The setting may be a little different, the people may be different, and you change a few things around, but for the most part, people do tend to, let me see if I can find this, because there's one really good, maybe I'll find it later if I can't find it now. There's one that I especially like. I think maybe it was before that. It's like a family on a boat. Maybe it comes later. But in any case, there's a lot of research involved, just like writing, So you won't know how to portray stuff. You need to either practice doing a subject, maybe doing preparation, doing research. One of the ways I like to do research personally is I really like to, if I'm painting a large scene, I'll take a section of it and I'll just sketch it with pencil to familiarize myself with the elements. Even though I'm not painting it yet, what I can do is pretty much just practice sketching some parts, and that's really fast, and it just gets me more familiar with the shapes and the values. And that's just a process you have to go through sometimes. So let me continue here. I'll find there's a family of immigrants on a boat. Okay, this one I really like too. For the life of me, I cannot remember exactly how I painted this one. But I really like how it turns out. You know, now that I look at it in retrospect, of course I can see how much I improved, but I also can see that this was pretty good. It's a lower angle. You can see under that little bar here, but I kind of disconnected something, but I think it looks decent enough. So people, for example, right? When inventing characters or stuff like that, you would find yourself opening up just Google Images, looking at random pictures of people, and then you grab elements and you change them up, right? You try to combine a lot of things. It's just not knowledge that you should necessarily have and know, you know? A lot of it is exploration. That's another key point that I wanted to discuss. The idea of exploration is very important because a lot of it, and this is kind of how I portray the main character, Natalie. And it's a very funny, I think, combination between a bit Western style, and there's some elements of manga even, I would say, in it. But it's mostly, I think, Western. But yeah, it's just that idea of exploration and discovery, right? A lot of it is you can't have all the factors and all the ideas and all the directions and all the information in your hand when you get started. That's the thing. It's almost like starting a business, which is something I know if you're trying to get all your ducks in a row, all of them, it's just something that's not going to happen. You have to sometimes start and let the problems present themselves, right? And you won't know what the problems are before you get started, right? So here's another one of this boat here, which is kind of I think one of the things I improved the most at, so I see myself doing a much better job at it now, but I did do a lot of research, looked at a bunch of boats there, looked at, you know, how the boat's foam and water looks like, and you see it, that's really, like, if anything, I would change the format to be more vertical, funny enough, not necessarily the details themselves, but yeah, this is a very wavy sea here. But I really like it, and even if you don't do a perfect job, you can do a good enough job and still portray the idea you wanted. And there is something to be said about authenticity and really portraying things the way you want them versus trying to get everything perfectly correct and accurate, which is just not going to happen. Now here's my favorite one, and I believe that's the last illustration here, aside from the train in the end. I'll show you too. And this is my favorite. It's two kids playing hide and seek. And this was a tough one for sure for me. And I had to use a lot of references and kind of figure out how I want to portray the setting and how I want to show the kids playing. And that's just something that I've never done before. And you think to yourself, like, even if you're prepared and you have some experience, every time you want to draw a scene and a story, it's always going to be that idea anew. Like, how do I even convey what I want? You know, what does it look like when someone's facing a tree and counting? You know, or a kid running, or specifically how you place the characters in the view. You know, there's so much that goes into that. And then finally we have the train that you've seen on the cover as well. Which this is a project I'm very proud of. It was my first like serious kind of project-like commission, and I think it ended up looking really, really nice. Now let me show you the manga, because it also I think, and let me show it up close too. Well, let me show you the manga, because I think that's another really good way of expressing this. So I have my big folder here with the pages, and I can just take them out. So for example, this first stage, right, shows this guy. And I'm giving this establishing shot showing the environment, and I don't know how to draw this thing from imagination, so I looked up a lot of inspirations. The main inspiration is Carcassonne, the walled city in France. That was my main inspiration. I changed quite a bit, but it definitely was a main one. this cabin, you know, you never, these are things that I don't expect to have in my own little brain, ready to go, of course. Birds to every panel here was a challenge. Every panel here anew was something tough to deal with, something I don't know how to deal with. Not knowing is okay. That's perfectly fine. Here's the rough sketch. This is the organized sketch. I have an even rougher sketch, I think, underneath. No, maybe it's in a different place, but I had a much rougher sketch before that, and then I did that, and then I did this. So every single panel in this thing posed new challenges, and that's just how it is. Let me show you another one, like this structure here. Let me take out the pages too, and I'll show you, because here's the rough draft, and then I did the face on a separate piece of paper because I really wanted to get it right, and here it is, the final one, which I think turned out great. I think also the technique is really, really good in terms of inking. I used the traditional Japanese nib pen, the G pen. But this structure here, of course I used reference, you know, of course I did my research and tried to find something, you know, the scene's composition, stuff like that, that's something you do learn with time and improve, but you can look up compositions, right? I knew that I wanted to show moonlight, I wanted to show skies with tons of stars, and when this is scanned, it's much less patchy because you see the ink work, the markers and such. But scanned, it just flat black. It looks so good, and the white really pops too. You see, and I reversed the direction here because I was like, why would it be against reading direction? I wanted it to be like this, and I completely removed the window. No need for it. So some changes. This stayed pretty much the same, but I like it a lot. So yeah, and then I did this attempt here to the side, and every page here is really a new challenge. So my bottom line, I guess, if I want to start concluding this one, is it's okay not to have all the information in advance. It's okay not to know how you're gonna tackle what you're gonna tackle. It's okay to, and let me show you the one of my favorite pages. Okay, it's a blacksmith, of course, workshop, smithy. And I did a lot of research on what can be found there, of course, and to draw this scene, it took a lot of that. The anvil and stuff I'm going to improve actually later. I'm going to edit it on the computer, swords, stuff like that. But I did a lot of research just on how the room is going to be planned, like the floor plan, so that it's actually usable as a smithy, because there's a lot that goes into that. I did a lot of research and watching videos, and let me show you the drafts too, okay? And yes, I will have more information on this in the future, but I started with this very scribbly page that I then brought some details out of and made it a little finer and more accurate. And then I transferred it to this very carefully traced and started also filling in more accurate details. And then I traced it to the real manga paper, over which I inked, and that's the end result. This was like the toughest panel ever because it's a tough angle. It's a scene, it's like a mezzanine where the bed is, and then we're looking, sorry, bumped the camera, and then we're looking down and we see the other guy, and they're talking, and then there's all the tools and equipment and a bunch of stuff there. This I should fix. This should go to the right, more to the right. But yeah, there's just always elements, armor and knights and stuff. There are always things you wouldn't know how to tackle, and I don't know how to tackle half the things I draw. You won't know, but the bottom line is, do your research, figure it out, learn, look at a lot of different materials, watch a video or two on the functionality of something if it's important to the thing you're working on, right? People expect to have the information at hand where a lot of the times you just won't. You need to gain it and to learn it. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents. Let's wrap it up. So a bit of a long-winded one, but hopefully that gets the point across. Basically, don't expect to have all your ducks in a row perfectly, like all of them, maybe 80% of them, maybe some of them, but you won't have all the information, right? A lot of it is just making the decision to committing, to doing the research, to looking at stuff. Even if you're just painting a landscape, why not look at a bunch of landscapes, figure out what's a recurring theme, right? Open them all up in Photoshop and look at the values. Is the green really as dark as it looks? Is it lighter? All of these things you can really dive deeper on and develop an understanding, not just use the excuse of I'm not experienced enough to do this. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Again, every new thing that I do scares me and I don't know if it will work out. That's just a part of it, you know. And if you let that stop you, you basically let life stop you. And it's a shame. And I want you to try out things that scare you or that challenge you, you know, to tackle new subjects, new mediums, you know. If you've gotten used to one thing and you kind of pigeonhole yourself, but then you feel like you want to try this other thing, why not try it? Why not, you know? So yeah, that's the talk for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. I really appreciate it. If you've listened to this till the end, leave a comment and let me know what you think about it and what else you want me to cover in future videos. Of course, if you still aren't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. What else is interesting? Hopefully next week I'll feel better, and then we'll do the launch on Thursday's live stream of the new watercolor realism course, which is almost done. But yeah, other than that, really excited. A bunch of stuff to show you soon. So take care, and I will talk to you again real soon.